Sammy, and today I am filming my long overdue November wrap-up. I have 6 books to talk about, which I'm actually pretty proud of because I feel like my reading is on the upswing and I'm only reading more and more from here. And hopefully that continues to be the trend. The first book that I read in November was The Book of Life by Deborah Harkness. This is the last book in the All Souls trilogy, which starts with A Discovery of Witches. Because this is book 3, I'm obviously not going to tell you the synopsis of this book because I do not want to ruin it for you. So we're going to talk about A Discovery of Witches, and I'll tell you all about that. A Discovery of Witches is about a woman named Diana Bishop who is a witch, but she's not... Pause. It was UPS. Okay. So, what was I saying? We were talking about this series. This lovely, lovely series. Okay, so A Discovery of Witches is about Diana Bishop, who is this woman who's a witch, and she is not very comfortable being a witch. She doesn't want anything to do with magic or her powers, and so she's kind of lived her life avoiding them at all costs. So she lives her life as this very prestigious scholar. She's a professor of alchemy and she's doing a fellowship at Oxford, and while she's doing her fellowship she borrows a text from the library, opens it up, and it happens to be enchanted, and it summons all of these creatures, demons and vampires and other witches who have been looking for this text for hundreds of years, and she is the first one to have ever found it. And she's kind of thrown into the path of this vampire named Matthew Claremont, and they join forces to, you know, figure out this book. And it's so good. A lot of people have mixed feelings about this series. I personally loved this series, and I can understand why people don't. And I'll tell you, this series is really slow, very historical. Not a lot happens. Like, a lot happens, but not a lot happens. And so it's a lot of reading about walking and reading and feelings and hiding. I can understand why people kind of get bored, but for me it was the atmosphere. I don't want to say I love school, but I love academia, and I love like scholarship, and like the aesthetic of academia just like gives me life. The aesthetic of like Oxford gives me life, but also like the act of learning things and like being so smart that you are on a fellowship at Oxford. Like, are you serious? Like, what? I found myself contemplating going back to school and getting like a master's and a PhD because of this book. I literally was like, should I go back to school? Should I become an expert in a field of study? Reading about those things in this book series was like a drug. It was so interesting, and like book 2 has time travel and it's just so good. Like, if you can get past being bored it is so good. And like, honestly, it was not bored. Like, I just loved it. I loved being in the world, and I will say that I was kind of in a book hangover after finishing this book, and I'm really sad that it's only a trilogy, but I am excited that season 2 of the TV series comes in January. Let's go on to book number 2, which unfortunately was a DNF, and that's The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. I talked about this briefly in my last video. This is about a girl named Yain Dar, whose mother was an heir to the throne of this kingdom, but she ended up like defecting in the name of love and ran away. So Yain was raised in this outside society, but then her mother ended up dying mysteriously. Yain thinks she was murdered, And then Yane is called back by her grandfather to the kingdom to take part in the inheritance competition. So Yane agrees to go back. I don't think she really has a choice, but she goes back and she really wants to figure out what happened to her mother. Yeah, that's really all I know. I don't know. It took off really slowly, which, you know, I kind of felt the same thing in The Killing Moon when I read it. But in The Killing Moon, like, I really became so invested in the characters and I, like, wanted to know what was gonna happen. And in this, I just, like, could not care less. Like, I was just like, okay. Okay. I ended up giving up at 230 pages. I may pick it up again because I hear great things, but I don't know. Like at 230 pages, I should be invested. Okay, the next book, I have words. I have lots of words for the next book. And it is Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. Look, everyone and their mother talks about normal people, whether it's good or bad. Why aren't we talking about this book? Because this book is way better than Normal People, and I liked Normal People. A lot of people didn't, and I'm in the minority group that actually really appreciated Normal People, but this book is way better, and I feel like no one talks about this book, and I'm confused. This book is about these two friends, Frances and Bobby, who are best friends and actually ex-girlfriends, and they're a, like, poetry duo. They are interviewed by this writer and photographer who is from this, like, really elite, like, rich society, and she's this older woman and she just, like, has this, like, allure to her, and so Bobby and Frances kind of find themselves, like, drawn to her life. And they become friends with her, and Frances is, like, hesitant to be friends with her, but she actually is drawn to her husband, Nick, and they form this, like, friendly banter. And it starts out as, like, friendly conversation, and then it turns into more intimate conversation. It is a coming-of-age novel. It talks a lot about, like, self-worth and just, like, being an adult and, like, figuring stuff out, and it's just, ugh. Like, I read this book and I, like, when I finished it, I found myself doing a lot of self-reflection and wanting to pick up more books that triggered that kind of thinking. So I really, really love this, and I want more people to read it. This next book I have, I'm very excited about. It's Simmerdown by Sarah Smith, and this book, I was so excited when I first saw this book, I think on Amazon's, like, book recommendation list, and the reason I was so excited is because it was the first romance book that I saw that had a Filipino main character, and I was here for it. So this book is about Nikki DeMarco, who has a Filipino cuisine food truck in Hawaii, and she goes to her normal parking spot that she fought really hard for to get, and it's this, like, prime spot by the beach. And when she pulls up one day, she sees that there's another truck parked there, and, like, that's against food truck etiquette. Like, you do not park where another food truck parks. So she's kind of, like, peeved, but she is like, oh, they're probably a newbie, like, I'll help them out, I'll let them know, like, that's not, you know, cool. But she meets the food truck owner, Callum, who is this very handsome British man who refuses to move his truck, and she is pissed. So they make this, you know, deal that the upcoming, like, food convention that's coming up in, like, a couple months, whoever, like, wins that gets to keep the spot and the other person has to leave. And so with that wager in mind, they kind of, like, they park next to each other at the same spot. They're fighting for the crowds of people to eat at their places, and they, like, kind of do these little things to, like, sabotage each other. And it's definitely, like, an enemies to lovers type deal, hate to love type deal. It's just really cute. I really enjoyed it. I will say, if you don't like the lack of communication being the conflict, this book may infuriate you. I think that was like one of the big complaints I had for it. But yeah, as far as like a romance book, it was definitely very cute, very fluffy, and I really enjoyed it. And as always with any Filipino book, this will make you very hungry and crave Filipino food. The next book I picked up is Get a Life, Chloe Brown. Yes, I finally did it, and can we get the next Brown sister book already, please? Because I love these books. If you somehow don't know what this is about, let me tell you. This is about Chloe Brown, who suffers from chronic pain. She has fibromyalgia, and she's kind of lived her life playing it safe. One day, she has a near-death experience, and she realizes that she has not experienced life to the fullest, and she needs to, you know, change it up and start living. And so she compiles this list of things that she feels she needs to do in order to get a life. And the first thing on that list that she does is she moves out of her family home and moves into her new apartment, and there she meets the superintendent, Redford Morgan. Who gave Redford Morgan permission? Who? He is just, he's so good. So she meets Redford Morgan, and at first they like kind of butt heads, but Chloe realizes that Red may be the perfect person to help her accomplish her get a life list, and so she recruits him to help her get a life, and romance ensues. And it's so cute. It's so cute. I have heard complaints, and I agree, that the third act conflict is a bit out of nowhere, but I feel like with the romance, you just gotta roll with the punches sometimes. Like, yeah, like, I feel like Talia Hibbert just like needed to find a problem for them to have, and she found one. And you just gotta roll with it. Like, it didn't ruin the book for me in any way, and I don't think it ruined the book for anyone in any way. I think people were just like, what the heck, like that was crazy. But it was just so sweet, and I loved it. If you have not read any of the Brown sisters books, like Get a Life, Chloe Brown is one, and the other one is Take a Hint, Dani Brown, go read them. They're so cute, and they have the best smut in it. Like, unabashed smut. The last book I finished on the very last day of November, and it's From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I have mixed feelings. But overall love. Overall love. This book is about this girl named Poppy who's about to turn 19, and on her 19th birthday, she's going to fulfill her life's purpose. She's been raised by this kingdom after she was orphaned as the chosen one, and what that means is she is the maiden. She's to remain pure, no one's allowed to look at her, no one's allowed to touch her or socialize with her, and she is to like walk around like veiled and like secluded and sequestered, and she's to remain pure because she's going to be offered up to the gods to prove her worth, and that will somehow save the people of this place. You're not meant to know why, by the way, up until later. Then one day this new guard is put onto her personal guard named Huck Flynn, who doesn't see her as the maiden, but he sees her as a person, and so they form this friendship, and that eventually turns into something more intimate than a friendship, and Poppy like starts to question what she wants her life to be, and it is really, really, really interesting. The only reason I have mixed feelings, so I love the story. The world is really vivid, and it's addicting as hell, like so addicting. But the only thing I have to like really critique about this is that I feel like Jennifer L. Armentrout really got hung up on things, like specifically surrounding the romance aspect. She would dwell on things for hundreds of pages, and it's like nothing's happening that seems more important than what she's talking about. And like people will say like the same things. Like she has like her inner monologue, like her inner conflict of like what she's thinking or what she's worrying about. And it's the same thing like over and over and over again, and it just got kind of like redundant, and I was just like, okay, yes, I know, your life sucks. What are you gonna do about it? Like, what are we gonna do? Can we go do something other than this? That, and I feel like the dialogue was a bit clunky at times in the sense of like not realistic, especially when it came to like the romance aspect of it. There were some points where I was like, are we supposed to like that? Because I'm very torn because on Goodreads I have this as a 4, and I feel like enjoyment wise that's very accurate, but quality wise it's probably more of a 3 or 3.5. So I'm wondering if I should change it. I'm not really sure. I do love that so many people are reading this book right now, and so many people are enjoying it and talking about it, and there's a lot of discourse going on about this book, so really enjoying that. There is going to be another book coming out in April, and I heard there are 5 books now. I thought it was just 4, but I've heard there are 5. I don't know, but apparently there are going to be a lot of books in this series, so I'm very interested to see where this goes. So yes, that's my November wrap up. It's very long overdue, but I finally did it. I'm very proud of myself. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to find me anywhere else on the internet, I will have those linked down below. That's about it. Let me know what you're reading. I would love to hear what you're reading, and if you're enjoying it or if you're not, let me know. I want to know things. Alright, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.